Okay, so we're just recording. Welcome to Celebrating Women Who Pivot, Part 2. So Part 1 was last month, and we brought in the head sponsors from our International Women's Day, and they, just to help tell their stories, what we all really wanted to hear was what they're doing, how they've pivoted, what it's been like to operate a business during the time of COVID, and really looking forward, what they've learned, how their business has changed. And so today we are so lucky to have these three amazing women. They were part of the goodie bag sponsors, I guess. We didn't have a great name, but these are just three women who are doing amazing things in Birmingham. Their stories are all very different, but they're very passionate about what they do, and also really to bring good to the city, to inspire men and women and our citizens really to rise up and really do a lot of good for our city. And everybody on this panel has had to have a shift. Like, they had one plan March 6th, and March 16th, 15th, it had to totally change. And so today we just want to take time to hear from these women, what they've learned, what they've experienced, the hard and the good. And one thing that I really hope that we all take away from this is, it's been very easy during these isolating times to sit back and look through social media and feel less than what other people are doing. And so these women, as well as the women on the previous panel, are all very authentic and share like the highs and the lows, but it's still really hard through a platform to really see what's going on. So I hope that today that you hear the heart of these women, the struggles, what it's like to be a business owner, but then also how they've used these struggles and these hard times to really dive into their business and thrive. So whether you're a business owner, an employee, thinking about being a business owner, a mom, a husband, there's still so many lessons that can be learned. So we are so excited about having you here today. Before we get started with the panel, I will do a quick commercial break for Forge. Like I said, we are a co-working space downtown Birmingham. And so one of the things that we have noticed over the last month is we are starting to see people who realize they're going to be stuck at home for the next couple months, or who knows how long, and that it's not working anymore, or their team is separated, they need to come in for a meeting. So if that is you and you are needing a space that's not your kitchen table or your basement because your kids are at home studying, or your wife is at home working, or you just can't look at your four walls anymore, we would love to talk to you, love to be able to serve you and have you work out of Forge. So that's our small plug. And we will follow up with an email with a recording and the recording of last month. So definitely, if you missed something or want to go back or want to share it, it will all be there for you. So thank you for joining. Now I am going to try to split my screen so that I can look at the questions that I have prepared. So last week, we all had a little pre-call, which is just so great to be able to talk to other women, talk to other business owners, where we've all been so isolated. And I did tell the ladies I wasn't going to ask any surprise questions, because I don't like those kinds of, I do so bad with that. But I do have a few rapid fire questions at the end that should be easy to answer. But ladies, I would love to give y'all the opportunity to, as we get started, I would love for you to do a quick introduction of yourself, who you are, and what your family looks like, because everybody on this call is coming from a different perspective. And I'd just like for them to know what your family looks like, so that, they're not comparing themselves to somebody who's living life very differently right now. So who you are, your family, what's at home right now, where you went to college, if you went to college, and your degree, and then your first job out of college. So I can remind you if you can't keep up with all of those questions. So Tiffany, you're my top square, so you get to go first.
Okay. Hey. I'm Tiffany. Oh gosh, am I
No, you're
echoing
good.
to you?
Nope.
Okay. Let me see. All right. That's what I need to do. Okay.
You're good.
I'm Tiffany Martin, and I am the owner of Ignite Cycle. We're a boutique cycling studio in Pepper Place. Currently closed due to COVID. I don't know if anybody's heard of it. It's this crazy virus going around. And we are doing virtual classes right now. It's been kind of, a journey. And let's see. Okay, so family. I am mostly working from home, also working from the studio. I have 2 kids, a 6-year-old daughter, a 3-year-old son, who are both in school full time. So they're there Monday to Friday, 8 to 3. And my husband is also here. He kind of does the same thing, works sometimes from home, sometimes from his office. He's also an entrepreneur. And then we do have, we have a nanny that helps out a couple afternoons a week. So we have the childcare thing during COVID covered. We are very fortunate in that way. I went to college at the University of Southern California, fight on, and studied psychology. And then I'll give a little bit more of my story. Moved to New Orleans after that to do Teach for America, then moved to Boston for my husband to go back to school, and moved to Birmingham 3 years ago and hit the ground running with Ignite Cycle.
Okay. All right. Jen, you're next.
Morning, I'm Jennifer Ryan. I am a Southern California native. I moved to the East Coast. I went to Princeton. I was an English literature major. And if you ever want to have a conversation about what to do with the major in English, I'm happy to discuss. We got creative. I moved to Wall Street, New York City, worked on Wall Street for 10 years after that. And then about 3 or 4 years ago, my husband and I moved to Birmingham for his job. We were expecting to stay for 1 year. We decided to set our roots here, plant our family life here. We just got married and we fell in love with Birmingham. Our families are in California and Colorado respectively, so it was a big decision that it was the right one for us. We have 2 Rhodesian Ridgebacks. I am hopeful to be a mom one day, and that's another journey that we've been on. And we started a business really a year and a half ago with an amazing group of people, one in particular named Robin Bashinsky, who is the creative genius behind a lot of the food that you might have eaten. And we were really fortunate to have our ducks in a row, have a little bit of cash flow and a lot of community support to be able to keep the momentum going when COVID hit. It looks a lot different than I would have expected, but we'll get into that. Did I miss anything, Kim?
That's great. All right, Tanesha.
What's poppin'? Of course, I'm Tanesha Sims Summers, founder of Naughty But Nice Kettle Corn Company, Birmingham's favorite snack. I am a mom. I'm a mom of 4. I became a mom at 22 years old, my last year of college, and my husband and I both had our sons. He was married previously, and so we do have a blended family. Our sons are both 16, so that was perfect for our dating life because most of our dates were birthday parties. And then, we dated for 5 years, and then we brought our 2 precious daughters into the world, JC and Jonna. They are 6 and 4 respectively. And I graduated from UAB, and I also studied in Costa Rica. So my major was Spanish and marketing. And my first job out of, and then I have a little one patting me right now. Give me 1 second. I finished, I'm sorry, my first job out of college, I went into the investment banking space. So I was a banker and got licensed to, sell certain investment products. And so I actually lived back and forth to Virginia, and I'll get into that later. But my aunt, who I always pay homage to for this great business idea, she practically raised me because I was not raised by my biological mom, who actually lives in California. So maybe that's like all the connection we have on this call. But she and I, we have, a great relationship now. So motherhood is very important to me. I just thought that's an important backdrop to why you may see the little ones, or if you've ever seen me at meetings, you may see me with one of them, just because I really value it. I do wish, though, however, Tiffany, I envy you, because I would love to have a nanny. I would love to have one. But yes, so Naughty But Nice, we exist to make relationships sweeter. So did I cover everything, Kim?
Yes. Okay. But I've already forgotten. Tiffany, what did you say your first job out of college was?
I was an elementary school teacher.
An elementary school teacher. Oh yeah, Teach for America, right. Okay, sorry. Yep. I think that was trying to get my screen split. All right, well, so what today's gonna look like the rest of the time is I'm just gonna ask the ladies a few questions. I'll probably start with, so who do I have on my list? I'm gonna start with Jen, because you're first on my list. And we'll just go through individually. For those of you watching, if you have any questions for them, just go ahead and put them in the chat. I've already seen a few questions come in. But Jen, I just want to get started with you. And then at the end, I have a few questions for all three of y'all. And then we'll open it up for questions from the audience. I still, as many of these as I've been on, I still feel like it's so weird seeing y'all and knowing that there's more people. So this is just all
it feels intimate.
It does. I know, I forget it's not just us.
No.
But yeah, so I do want to start with you, Jen. So you gave a brief, you were at Wall Street and then you came here, but tell us just how you went from working on Wall Street. Were you trading? I mean, what were you doing on Wall Street, and how you made, I mean, that seems like a big shift. And I did ask y'all about what your undergrad degrees were, because on the last call, Ashley said a statistic I'd never heard of, but 9% of entrepreneurs have a business degree. So Tanesha, you fall into that. I mean, marketing kind of falls under business, but which was crazy to me. But so tell us how you made that shift from Wall Street to food.
Yeah, look, I've kind of always been the wild card kid. I ended up on Wall Street. I worked at Goldman for about 12 years, and I was an English major that graduated in a bull market. So I had a lot of momentum behind me. There were job opportunities. I had a lot of, it was a wonderful time to be graduating from college. Flash forward a few years and the financial crisis hit. I was so far down on the totem pole that I was overlooked. I was the cheap labor that they kept. They kept the really, really senior people. They kept the cheap labor like me. I was just a young analyst. And really, truly everyone else was let go in 2008 and 2009. The way I made my way to Wall Street was sort of random to begin with, and I wasn't quite sure what I wanted to do. I used college as a time to spruce up my analytical skills, to lean into things I loved, which were books, to meet a lot of people, and to really hone in on, kind of personal skills. What did I want to do? Where did I want to focus? But I met a couple of wonderful mentors who convinced me to give Goldman a shot. And it taught me all the hard skills that I hadn't learned yet, really deep analytical skills, technical skills. I was on the private side, so the banking side to begin with. Then I moved over to the public side and worked in the asset management space. So we spent time putting portfolios together for big institutional clients like endowments and foundations and sovereign wealth funds. I learned a lot about the market. I learned a lot about managing teams. I managed people in New York City with me all the way to London and Salt Lake City in California. And I honestly think those skills, technical skills aside, those were very useful, but the skills of managing a team, managing time, managing priorities, managing up, down, and sideways, the corporate space, I know these other two can speak to this too, it was just, and New York on top of that, I was just able to cut my teeth in a really fast-paced environment. And honestly, as many sort of stumbles as I had as a young worker, trying to figure things out and being very ill-equipped next to people who did have business degrees, who did have more experience, who did have internships that I didn't, as much as I had a lot of bruises and stumbles along the way, it was very confidence inducing to be able to show myself that I was capable and competent. And the big lesson I learned from that was that when I hired people going forward, I didn't hire the perfect profile. I didn't hire the 4.0 kid. I didn't necessarily hire from the top college. I hired for some soft skills with somebody who is fungible, a little malleable, and really, really willing to work hard and learn, because that was the opportunity that I was given. So I tend to have a little bit of an eclectic mix of people on my teams back then and now. And I am truly a believer that if you find the soft skills in people, you can teach all the hard skills. So I think I got the good baseline for financial acumen, managing teams, managing crises. And when we moved to Birmingham, Kim, I don't know if you want me to get into it now, but we just saw a wide open gap in the marketplace. So it was a gap that I was trying to fill by bringing other brands in. I had no intention of being a restaurateur. If there are any restaurateurs out there, you got the same spiel I did. Everyone said, don't do it. Everyone said, run fast, run far away. And they weren't wrong. It's really hard. And I had no intention of being that. And I begged all of my favorite brands to come to Birmingham, and I gave them statistics, and I shared analyses, and I showed median household income in certain places, and I showed them the demographic information. I told them it would be amazing. And no one was interested because no one wanted to come to Birmingham. And it was actually a good thing, because there's this really special, unique characteristic about Birmingham that doesn't love big chains. It really, really loves local organic growth. And I didn't know that when I was a new kid on the block. And now I've realized how important of an element that is, and how much of it's part of the heartbeat of this place. So we decided to do it ourselves.
So tell us just a little, I mean, that just seems like a giant shift, like first of all, like, I don't know many people who love something so much and they will do all that research to try to, that's pretty incredible, like providing analytics. You're not like that sounds like a property manager or something who's trying to fill their space. So that's amazing. But just like the shift, like, okay, well, nobody's going to come. Well, I'll just do it. I have no experience in food, but I'll do it.
It didn't happen overnight. And I imagine these other guys here, Tanesha and Tiffany, can talk to the methodical steps they made. I think my view is that there are two kinds of entrepreneurs, and I could be very wrong. I've got limited experience, but there are those that they just sort of have the it factor, and they have a really good intuition, and they really can go jump off the cliff and be successful. And I know a handful of those people that have amazing ideas that they've brought to fruition, and they're very, very successful. There are the other people that are a lot more methodical, a little risk averse, kind of conservative, a little bit nervous, data driven, and don't necessarily trust their gut because they've got to work on their gut. I'm in the latter camp, and I had a lot of work to do to make sure that the idea had some merit. And so when I decided to do this, there were a lot of reasons. One, we decided we were going to be in Birmingham for a long time. Two, I was traveling at least 2 weeks a month out of the 2 weeks of the month to California for my other job that I had. It was really weighing on me from a sort of health and wellness perspective. We wanted to start a family. I mean, all these, the confluence of events. And so for me, I put a few data points on paper and decided that I'd put, together some phases. And if we hit the certain benchmarks every phase, we keep going. And if we didn't, we wrap it up. And I didn't invest very much capital at first. I didn't invest very much time. And it was just small steps in the right direction. And if we hit the benchmarks, we would keep going. But the thing is, we kept hitting the benchmarks. It turns out I wasn't the only person that was looking for healthy food. And it turns out the farmers here are incredible. And it turns out that there's a lot of wonderful culinary talent. So as aggressive as that leap looked, when you really break it down, I made it very, very bite-sized and very digestible and very, very accessible, that we just took little chunks at a time, and we measured and we reviewed, and then we decided to step forward. And that's why we have all these phases. We started at Pepper Place. We moved into wholesale. We launched the Outpost. We launched, the catering business. We've signed our lease at Pepper Place, but it was all just, small steps in that direction versus doing everything at once. a little bit from my own well-being, for, our family's financial well-being, and for me, just learning a new market, because I didn't know Birmingham, and who wants a person from outside coming in to tell them what they should be doing? I don't. So
Okay, so I want to go back, because you, in a normal conversation, that would sound like, oh yeah, you did it methodically and you started a pepper place wholesale, and then the outpost and a lease, but after wholesale was COVID.
Yep.
Which is not methodical.
Correct.
So
Correct.
tell us just a little bit about the shift that you've had to make. And then I would love for you to share just a few things, kind of what we talked about before, just some of the hard struggles, and then the joy that's come out of it, though.
When COVID hit in March, the three things that I was most nervous about, the concerns that I had as a business owner, were my team, revenue, and the community engagement. For me, the team was my most important priority. I had no idea how I was going to pay them. I had lost all opportunity, all avenues for our revenue streams. Catering had gone kaput. Wholesale had disappeared, and we did not have an outlet to sell anything. So revenue went to zero overnight. And I had I did not have the intention of having my team come into work if they weren't comfortable. So we shut down. We closed up shop, and we just decided to pause. And again, business owners are different. Some are really good at thinking on their feet. I needed to take a pause, look at the data, look at the landscape, talk to the team, really assess and make sure that I was making a good decision. And it was a decision I wanted to make sure I was going to be proud of in 6 months, 12 months, 18 months, because we had no idea where we were going to be. So team was number one. And I have to say, plug for the LADOM organization here in Birmingham, because I was the recipient of a little grant that showed up on April 1st. And that check of $6,000 paid for my team for the month, because I had not been a recipient of PPP or EIDL or any of the other federal or city funds. I was so lucky. So there were just, little manas from the heaven coming down and, offering us a little bit of a bridge. So that was number one, we closed. Number two, revenue, we needed to figure out what we were going to do, but that was sort of the last resort, because there was no way we were going to be able to open. So the third concern I had was how we were going to stay engaged with the community. And that's where we leaned in really hard. And so if any of y'all were around when we were struggling with this, new normal in March, April, May, June, we started doing things like Sunday Supper Club. And Robin and I would get on and we'd cook healthy meals and encourage people to buy from our local farmers, because they were really struggling. We started hosting, wise words from women I love, where you could see me sit down and pepper some of my favorite women in Birmingham and beyond with questions about what they were going through, seeing, learning, doing. And right as that was happening, the world really caught on fire when it came to extraordinary social injustice coming to the fore. And so then our conversation started to morph into how can we support our community in a different way? And it dawned on me that fueling our community, which has always sort of been our tagline, meant a lot more than just feeding people. And so we were really trying to be as supportive, as positive, and as encouraging as we could in this time of stress and difficulty and challenge for a lot of people in a lot of different ways. And then the outpost, we ended up moving forward and opening it just several months late. But the data told us that we could and we should. It was just delayed. And so I'm proud of the decision to pause. I'm proud of the decision to pay our team, even though we were out of work, when I wasn't sure our bank account was going to be able to afford it. And I look back and my parents had told me a long time ago, like, just make the decisions that you can be proud of later. And so every turn, even if they've been hard, I know they've been the right thing. And so I've been pleased and encouraged with the decisions we've been able to make as a business, even if it was really hard on our bottom line. But I think it'll come around. So. Oh, you're on mute.
Yeah, I was typing. I wrote down your quote, to make the decisions that you'll be proud of later on. Yeah. So what's been your biggest joy through all the stress?
I would say it goes back to the people, just, the people that are working for us. We're able to employ people. We've grown the team in an era where unemployment's been at all-time highs. Our team reflects the diversity and the love of our city, and I'm really proud of that. And that's something we need to continue to work on. And on the people side, our community, they're showing up, they're supporting small businesses, they're asking how they can help, they're giving us feedback, they're continuing to support, even when I know economically it's a hard time right now for a lot of people, and people are still showing up. So the gratitude and the appreciation that we feel every time someone comes in and purchases a salad or gives us feedback or writes a nice review, we get to send that back to the team. We get to increase their pay. We get to continue to expand, and we get to continue to fuel the community. So it's just the people on both sides that have made this all worth it, as hard as it's been.
That's great. Okay, Tiffany, you're up next. Okay, so I have the advantage of knowing a little bit of the background of these ladies. So tell us about how you decided to start Ignite, because you had teaching background when y'all moved here. I know you had 2 young kids, but what was sort of the track that you went on to get to where it's like, oh, I'm going to open a gym?
So after I finished teaching, I moved into like an operational role at a startup charter school. So that gave me like a little bit of knowledge in the more like business operations side of things. And then my husband is also in education. When we got married, we decided that 2 educators was way too many in the family. And he definitely had like the better job and more experience and was going somewhere with his role. So I started doing personal training. You don't bring that work home as much. And then, so we were living in New Orleans then. And then when we moved to Boston, we had our daughter, and considering managing my schedule, a babysitter's schedule, and a client's schedule who they can cancel at any point in time, it just seemed like too much. So I decided to go into group fitness because that's a little bit more predictable, right? You instruct Mondays at 5:30 p.m. and whoever shows up, but like you're on the schedule. So it really was, that move for me was just more about convenience. And at the time I was writing we have it here too, the like city moms blogs. I was writing for the Boston Moms blog, and they did a mom's night out at SoulCycle. And I took that class and was like, this is what I have to do. So got online the next day. That was on a Wednesday. Got online Thursday, found a local training, went and took a class on Friday at this studio, and started training Saturday. And that's kind of like the rhythm of my life. I think I'm like, I have so much respect for Jen's style of entrepreneurship. I think I'm the first one. Like, I'm like, let's go.
I so envy you.
What? I'm sorry.
Oh, shoot. I just said I so envy you. I envy you that you can do that you have that gumption and that passion and just intuition. I'm working on it.
I think the grass is always greener, because I wish that I could look at the data the way that you do and just be like say things like, the data told me. Like, oh my goodness. So did the training, started instructed at 2 different studios, and had such a cool opportunity with the first studio that I instructed with. They were both startups, but the president of the first studio kept all of his instructors really involved. We had weekly meetings, and he would update us on the business and ask for our feedback. So I learned a ton about the behind the scenes stuff just from being on that team. And then moved to this other studio, female founded, and just like really outstanding culture, incredible product, very well organized, and was able to just kind of like just be an instructor there, but still really pay attention to everything that was going on. And so when we found out that we were moving to Birmingham, I started looking for a place to instruct because that is what I love to do. I love the performance aspect of it. I love the like building people up aspect. And there wasn't a place for me to instruct the way that I wanted to here. And as I did some soul searching, I realized that in the back of my head, when I was in these meetings with the president of the studio, or when I was talking with a front desk team member at a studio, I was always kind of planning Ignite. And so when it came down to it, you know, we moved here. Well, I guess we found out that we were moving here actually like June 22nd. I was out of town. Do you remember flying on airplanes? I went to the airport, and to come home, I bought a moleskin notebook and I started planning the business on the airplane on the ride back. And then moved here 2 months later and really hit the ground running. I joined Co-Starters. That was tremendously helpful and incredible. More than anything for me, it was about connecting to the community. I've met all of you guys through Co-Starters.
I just realized all of us went through Co-Starters.
Say that again. I'm sorry.
Oh, no, I just realized that all of us went through Co-Starters. I hadn't even put that together. Yeah. So go Co-Starters, go Create Birmingham. Small plug.
Seriously, it's such a special organization. Yeah, all the people at Create are incredible. So did that, and before I started Co-Starters, I was looking for a like brick and mortar. I'm sorry, I'm getting my own echo on my phone.
We're not.
So I had some really aggressive goals. I thought I was gonna move here in August and be open by, January 1. That didn't happen. Finding a place took a little bit more time, but eventually found the perfect spot, corner spot in Pepper Place. And, we just have such an incredible support system there with the landlords, and it's a really cool tenant mix too. It's like being on a college campus. It's awesome. Yes, and Jen, we'll see you there soon. So I think, yeah, it's been a wild journey, but grateful to have had this opportunity to start this.
So tell us a little bit. I know fitness and food really fitness seems harder. I don't know. It's all hard, but just what the journey has been like for you, because having to totally close, try to open, and then I don't know if everybody on this call knows, like they closed again, and just how you managed that.
Mm-hmm. So my perspective, in terms of how I operate my business in general, has always been about it's very much community focused, and how can we help people be better as individuals or tap into the best parts of themselves, but that also translates to the community. And when things got that 1 week in March, when things got kind of crazy, we made a few adjustments to our schedule for that first Monday. What was that, Monday the 16th or something?
Yes.
We were going to start doing classes at half capacity. And again, I was on an airplane and coming from California. And when I was at the transfer, California announced that they were shutting down bars and gyms. And at that point, I was like, we got to do the same. I can't put people in that room together. We really do basically lock people in a room for 45 minutes and tell them to breathe heavily. It's kind of like a hotbed for, spreading an airborne virus. So we decided Sunday that we were going to close, for 2 weeks, of course, because everything was going to happen for 2 weeks at that point. And honestly, at that point, just kind of we were like, we're going to try to stay engaged with the community. We did virtual dance parties. We had a DJ do a set every night for 45 minutes. But in terms of the fitness piece, we couldn't do what we do, riding bikes. And we also didn't want to do something that we don't do, especially when there were so many opportunities to support like local studios that were doing the thing that they do, right? So why would we ended up just pointing our riders to all these different places. If you want to move your body, here are some great places. Here are ways that you can support, our community. So we reopened 2 weeks after every place was allowed to reopen again, because in terms of the virus spread, like, we wanted to see how it went and wanted to make sure that it wasn't going to be, that it wasn't going to turn into what it eventually did, but it took some time. So we reopened the end of May, and, at half capacity, put in a ton of, sort of guidelines for our riders that, I think, helped people feel safe, but also our business is so much about the culture and the connection, emotional connection, physical connection, all of that. And that was obviously lacking. I think that's the case for, all of us in every social situation. So we were open for 2 months, and it was late July that those numbers started going through the roof. And I was, having a conversation with my team about what that looked like for our community, what it looked like for the medical community, and just how overwhelmed UAB was. They were moving patients from regular floors to different parts of the hospital so they could make more room for COVID patients. And again, because, and I'm obviously not shy about what I believe could happen at my business. I did not feel comfortable having people ride bikes. So we decided to close again. This time we decided to do a virtual option. So we put out an application for our riders to apply for a bike at home, and got them all rented out, and are doing this virtual My Bike Room platform right now. Looking at a reopening plan, but again, like, this is someplace, Jen, that I think I have been able to just kind of be like, what's the data telling me? But, it's just so tricky to figure out what's best. There's not a ton of guidance out there, and which makes it hard to be, an owner. So, closed for this foreseeable future, but feeling, like it's the most responsible thing to do.
So what do you think that you have learned through this? I mean, you just opened too. I mean, y'all, when did you open?
Yeah, we had our anniversary party, our first anniversary party, March 9th.
Yes. Yeah. See? Oh my goodness. So, I mean, this is just all, you can only laugh, because that's really like, or else you would just be crying. But
and just be a puddle.
Yeah. So now on this side of it, I don't even know if you're far enough removed. Like, this is nothing like you thought it would look like. But are there any little nuggets that you can be like, you know what, I've learned this and we'll take it with me? This is going to change the way we do business, or not change the way, but just like some truths that you've learned through this that will help your business or help you as you're going forward.
Yeah.
Sorry, I did not ask you that ahead of time.
Two thoughts that I have. The first, maybe not the most encouraging, but you invited us here to be like honest, right? So there is this one part of me that, we're the only like studio that's closed still. And there's this little part of me that kind of feels like, when you would go to the pool as a kid and like everybody would have sandwiches, and then, some like, I feel like the kid that's like, I gotta wait 20 minutes until I get in the pool, and like all the other kids are in the pool, like having a great time. And I'm just sitting there waiting. Like, it does feel, I question myself often. Am I being overly cautious? Is this the right decision? Because obviously, like, we're, potentially losing customers, definitely, not making the revenue that we would be making. So that while the decision wasn't necessarily hard, I still question it. But I do think at the end of the day, what is the most important to me is running my business with as much integrity as possible and from my heart. Like, I am a gut-driven leader. What feels right. And that's, I mean, I will talk to as many people as possible. I'll talk to my team. I'll talk to our writers. But at the end of the day, you know, I'm going to go with what my gut has told me. And I think that has been more solidified for me in this process. That's, you know, at the end of the day, kind of just, you got to do what feels right. I think you're muted.
I'm muted. You know, you'd think after all this time I would remember that. But yeah, thank you, Tiffany. So Tanesha, we're moving on to you quickly. You're in the hot seat now. Looks like somebody else. There you go.
Hey.
Of course. Yeah. Hey. Okay, so we're gonna jump right in with your story. So you mentioned it briefly, so we don't have to go back there, but I know that you had a major career shift from banking to Naughty But Nice.
I did.
So can you, oh, go ahead. Yeah, I was just gonna say, can you tell us a little bit about that journey and with like some advice for women who may be thinking about it, have an idea somewhere along that journey, because I know it hasn't been easy and you've experienced a lot of different things through that.
Yeah, absolutely. So we started our journey 6 years ago, but I'd like to say my entrepreneurship journey started 14 years ago. Being in the banking industry right after college was just very instrumental to how we've made decisions and how we've done various things. And so with that, I would say I'm a combination of both Tiffany and Jennifer. I will look at a little data, but I definitely go with my gut on some things. And it's just because data can, I don't think either of them are independent of the other. And so I was that person who just felt I did not want to go and look for a job after college because I didn't feel like I was supposed to be working for somebody. But fast forwarding, I am where I'm supposed to be, but then I was where I was supposed to be as well. And everything I've experienced has led me up to this moment. And so I started off this business. I was pregnant on maternity leave. And this is how my life happened. My husband and I dated for 5 years, and he proposed the 5th year. And 4 months later, I was pregnant. We had the wedding scheduled for the following year, which was the same year now that I was due to have my child. And so literally from May until September of 2014, I was planning the actual wedding that we had to push back. I was starting the business, okay, doing the research about kettle corn. And then, of course, I had just had a new baby. So I'm nursing, and it was that year was, and that year along with this year have probably been the 2 toughest years just throughout this journey. And so, my aunt, like I said, who practically raised me, she knew how passionate I was about entrepreneurship. And some reason, she was like, you need to try this kettle corn company. And I was like, kettle corn? Like, why would you recommend, like, I don't have an interest in food, snack foods. I never said it before. But in this instant, I felt that gut-driven thing, right? So I was initially led by my gut, and then I flipped over to Jen and started doing the research, started, figuring out, the consumption of Americans and popcorn, and then I went a little further and focused on the sweet and salty aspect of the snack market, and then started looking at just what was going on in Birmingham, right? And researching the comparison of what's going on outside of Birmingham. And I was like, okay, one or two things are happening. This is either a very bad idea or it's just a really great idea, and nobody has thought to really invest time into it, because at that time there were really no popcorn companies in Birmingham, like Gourmet. And so that same year, though, Haagen-Dazs, which is in the Galleria, he's the largest Haagen-Dazs owner that I found out in the Southeast. He decided to open, if you remember, he has half of it is a popcorn shop, and then he has the Haagen-Dazs right on the end. So that happened in 2014, and I was like, okay, this may be my sign, right? Because if you have a little competition in the market, that's healthy. And so I was like, he's a smart man. He's been a franchise owner. Surely he wouldn't just open a popcorn company without any supporting data. And so I felt like the signs were coming together for me. And so I really kind of took the leap, because I knew that was that moment in my life, just with everything happening, that I was like, this is the time, Tanesha, if you want to really pursue this entrepreneur journey, I think this is your out. And so I did go back to work, and I was only supposed to go back through October of 2014 because I was going to be vested in my company. And I said, so it makes a lot of sense to go back, get that, get my full investment. And then I would definitely leave, and I'm out of here at the end of the year, 2014, December. I'm gone, deuces. All right, and at this time I was in the digital marketing space. So I had been there for about 6 years. So I was really doing what I was passionate about. But in both careers, I was always dealing with small businesses. So in my investment career and even in the marketing space. And so I ended up getting a promotion, though. So I had to go out to California, and I did this training. I accepted the promotion. And that was a very critical part, too, because I was really doubtful of myself. And I said, I'm sorry, can you excuse me 1 second?
It's the real life of a mom.
It really is, honestly.
Oh, me. All right, we've got some questions coming in. So those of you who are listening, if these have brought about any questions, be sure to put them in the chat in the Q&A. And I have like so many to ask, but I'm also want to be respectful of everybody's time. So we might have to have a part two.
This is real
That's
life.
what I said.
All kind of shipments coming from everywhere. So sorry for the pause. Hope you all had a chance to chat. But so where was I? So that was a very testing moment for me, right? Because, when you're in corporate America and you're thinking about the idea of leaving a comfortable situation, like I wasn't in a situation where I absolutely hated my job. I did struggle spiritually because I just didn't feel fulfilled, and I felt like there was more I should be doing. But I was excelling. I won the company trips, and I was just doing really well. And so coming from maternity leave and being introduced to the opportunity to be promoted and taking the promotion was really a conflict struggle for me. And so I took the promotion, and God knows his children, right? Because he probably was like, okay, Tanesha, you said you wanted to step out on faith. You said you wanted to do this. You were supposed to be gone in December, but you take the promotion. So it's like the carrot being dangled in my face, because you're around people who are, and I think everybody has roles. It's not bad if you want to work in a corporation. Right now I have a different perspective, because when you're building a business, you need help. But when you are an entrepreneur, you're like, oh, I'm supposed to be, I have this different journey where I'm supposed to be, and I'm supposed to be the leader, and I don't want to work for anybody. But you're always working for people, right? You're working for your customers, you're working for your team. So you can never get out of that respect. But I think being able to control the trajectory of how your life goes and the meaning and purpose of it, to me, is where it's most fulfilling. But you're around people who are comfortable with, I'm doing well in my position. I just want to keep moving up. And so that's a struggle, right? Because that almost makes you doubt the idea of, why would you leave something that's great to go and like start a business and you don't know what you're doing? So, so I got pregnant again, and I'm like, you got to be kidding me. I remember I was in the Publix parking lot. I was still nursing, and I'm like, when did I even find time to get pregnant? It seemed like there was no time for that to actually happen. Or maybe I was just fuzzy because I was stressed. But so my doctor's like, yeah, so when was your last, visit from your friend? And I'm like, I mean, I'm nursing. I really haven't had a visit in like 2 years between being pregnant and all of that. So she said, we should probably do a pregnancy test. So we did. And I'm like, I'm not pregnant again, I mean, my baby's 10 months. Surely I'm not. And I got the call the next day, and I literally almost crashed. And I know that sounds sad, like especially if somebody's like, you're the planner, I'm having a baby this time this year. And I've always wanted to be a mother, but in my life, God knew that I probably would have overthunk it and it would have never been the right time. And so I got pregnant again with my last child. So JC is like the child that's synonymous of the birth of the company, because she was born in 2014. And Jonna is really that symbol of, you got to step out on faith, because there was no way I could work a job and, parent these children and grow a company. But I was gentle with myself in that process. And I said, you have to keep your values in front of you. And so there were times where I felt doubtful that I wasn't going fast enough. And those moments have really helped me even during this pandemic, simply because I stuck to my principles, right? For me, it was God, it was family. And then it was the change I wanted to make in the community. And I reminded myself that it's a marathon, it's not a sprint. And, slow and steady wins the race. And so for me, I have children, and it's funny because we have to read all these kids' books, and God shows up in a lot of those books. It's the simple principles that we have to teach children that we need to be reminded of often as adults. And so because we didn't have an enormous amount of debt as a company, we were very strategic and methodical of when we took it on, what was our next move. Really just been trying to operate as lean as possible throughout this process. So some traumatic things that happened, though, is that we were in our foundation was Pepper Place Farmers Market. And so we decided to occupy a space on First Avenue North. And we were had a shared space, and our partner realized that their lease was up this year. And so we were faced with the decision to stay there and pay a 200% increase. Where would we go? We had just launched our truck, Miss Poppy, this year. That venture started last year. And so we had all of these moving pieces, like taking on new debt, taking on a new stream of income, but then managing, where are we going to go? And not to mention, my husband's job ended this year. And so there were so many moving pieces for us. The social justice piece was the most critical because I'm a Black woman. I'm a Black female-owned business. I can relate to being a woman and being Black. And we really struggled with just having the energy to even support this cause. Like, where did we fit in? It was very emotionally draining, but we came to a consensus that we have to be a voice in this space, and we have to leverage where we are and be honest and candid with our white brothers and sisters that we have a relationship with so many amazing people. Me and Jen went on a walk a few weeks ago, but and so there were a lot of epiphanies throughout this year, but I would say, like Oprah always says, and I'll probably have a few quotes for her if I have time, but one is, she says, you have to focus on making the next best step, right? You don't know when or how something will happen, but what is the next best step? And that's how we try to apply every challenge in our business. But specifically this year, it was, this is the issue we're faced with now. What is the next best step from here?
Yeah. I'm so, especially talking to you last week and then now, it's just so amazing to see how, I mean, you kind of glossed over Miss Poppy. Like that was your idea for that, or not idea, your like business plan that was
Yeah.
very methodical and low debt, like you did it in a way where you would have low debt and be able to make money and pay it off. It was very strategic. And then I don't even think I knew about I knew you changed locations. I didn't know why, but just your confidence, your being able to, like you did have kids that you raised and didn't have a nanny and had to decide who gets my time. And you were very confident in saying, okay, right now my kids get my time. And in a time like where your husband lost his job and he's coming into the company, like it's just really amazing to hear your story, that just how you were able to make those priority choices in a time that's very stressful, and a time that that your revenue, you don't know what it's going to look like or where it's going to come from, and the emotional stress of just the heaviness I feel like you talked about of what's going on in the Black community, and the weight of the emotional weight of how you even choose to make a stand. Like, just because it's just so emotional. So
it is. I think though, everything that you experience in life, it's preparing you for what you're supposed to be doing. And so there have been times that I'm in the shower and I'm crying, and literally it will be after something so amazing has happened, some award, some shout out, but it's like this pressure. And I always compare it to, like, I can only imagine the pressure of like stars, like movie stars. It's like you always have to go above. It's what you feel, right? You have this success, and so now it's like, okay, well, what is next? And so I have to always bring myself back down and say, what is your purpose? When we say we're popping with a purpose as a company, we truly exist to make relationships sweeter. So for us, what that means is we are finding needs, and we're being intentional with and filling them. So we're very collaborative. We support other small businesses. I have gone through well, not every probably, but a good percentage of the small business classes. Of course, Biz 1.0 with Rev Birmingham, Create Birmingham. I've done Lift Fund, I've done True Fund, I've done the SBA Emerging Leaders. And those are the things that year over year has kept me connected and fueled as an entrepreneur, because I have to always keep learning. And sometimes I may feel like it's, I'm a little above what I'm learning, but then I bring myself back to say, maybe you should tweak your vision statement, right? Everything you think even to the most minuscule things about yourself and your company, some of these classes have just helped me to reconnect with those things. We're very intentional about education. And so we're going to be partnering with universities or schools. That's kind of what our thing is. And during the pandemic, when a lot of our venues, like, the Sheraton, they canceled all, like, we had scheduled things with them. We have vendor fees still out from things that canceled, and we're like, okay, are we going to ever get our money back? But we focused our energy and efforts on giving, right? We didn't know if we were even going to be able to re-up on our supplies, but we were giving away what we did have. And God was true. I think people like to see, we're in a stage and an age right now where people can get a product or service from anywhere. It's just like we talked about I was literally in a class before this, and they talked about Harley Davidson, and how Harley Davidson's, their whole motto is, when you purchase from them, it's an emotional decision. It's emotional connection, right? So she talked about building up to, first you get the shirt, then you get the bandana, then you get a tattoo, and then I'm ready for the purchase, right? And that is exactly that emotional connection that we want people to feel. Obviously, we want every kernel to melt in your mouth. We want to deliver the freshest product, the most unique, high quality ingredients, flavors, right? But at the end of the day, we want you to feel good about your purchase with us. We want you to know that your relationship with us is with a company who's intentional about making the communities we serve better. And so we gave a lot of kettle corn to the Publix workers. We gave them to firefighters, nursing homes, the police stations, the hospitals. And again, we were not even sure that if an actual order came through, we would have enough product to fill those. And then we got some resources from all that has gone on, like the Idol, and so we were very fortunate. The funny thing is, when we initially tried to get a loan last year, the amount that we were originally going for, we couldn't get that. But now in this season, the difference has been made up. And so it's just amazing how your blessings will come. I think you just have to stay true to doing what is right for the right reasons, and really operating in the purest, most authentic way that you can, and people can really sense that. And I think those are some things that just has helped us to transition and pivot through where we are now. Uh-oh.
So mad. I thought I was going to get one in there without it. Oh my goodness. Thank you is what I said on mute. Okay, there have been several questions that have come in. A lot of them have kind of been answered. So this kind of not sums up, but brings several together. So all three of you really have passion to provide more than just your service to our city, your specific service. So, and this is just sort of go around answer pretty shortly because we're running out of time, but did y'all have this passion to serve more, like to do more than just your love before you opened, or did it kind of evolve?
Mine definitely did. I mean, as a Black female, I didn't have a lot of examples of successful, scalable companies. I mean, yeah, I've seen examples of entrepreneurs, or business owners, or a hustler, but to be an entrepreneur and to see a company similar to like a Chick-fil-A who started very small and grow, I didn't see a lot of those examples, even in communities, whether it was my family or not. And so for me, even at 22, it was a mission to be that example and also get to a point where I can help other people that look like me through this roadmap, preparing them for the things, like I said, this journey started technically 14 years ago because I started the LLC 14 years ago. And then I was working on building business credit. I had no idea what the product or the service would be. I just knew that this was something that was supposed to manifest. And because of that, then, 7 years later, when I go and open a business account at Wells, I'm instantly granted a $12,000 line of credit in my business name, not associated with me. I didn't have to put anything. Everything started from taking that first step to plant that seed, because I knew that there are going to be some little brown girls and brown boys who would never know or have the confidence to say, what's my first step? And now a lot of people call me for advice. I don't have every answer in the world, but I know just trying to make those small baby steps, I can give a lot of insight on things that you can do right now where you are, grow where you're planted. And so God just used the catalyst of kettle corn. That's what it is. And so I trusted the journey of what I was supposed to do. And I was open when the opportunity presented itself, just because it wasn't pretty and shiny and maybe it sounds corny, no pun intended.
I like that.
A kettle corn company, like you're really gonna quit your job to like do that, and people don't realize how, a Coca-Cola, and those are some companies. When I say Chick-fil-A and Coca-Cola, those are companies that we mirror ourselves after and that we aspire to grow into. And I may or may not be alive to see it, but I hope that I can truly lay a foundation that and some principles that will allow that voice to ring far beyond the time that I'm here.
Mm-hmm. Jen, what about you?
I don't think I can follow that.
Oh Lord.
Look, that is the perfect answer. My shoddy response is, yeah, we were new to Birmingham. There was something we thought we could give, but I will tell you, it sounds selfish, but I was looking for the fulfillment of, being part of something. And I really, really, really missed my community in New York. I moved to New York City with 10 of my best girlfriends from college. And those badasses in every single industry were my touch points. They were my family 3,000 miles away from home. And I missed that. And I was so lucky to have a really supportive partner and to have family far away that was cheering us on. But I just wanted to be part of something bigger. It felt really lonely to move to a new place when we were just starting out. It was exciting, it was adventuresome, but it was also lonely. And I figured the only way to combat that was to jump right in and to really entrench ourselves. So the hope was always that we could give something back when we built the business. We just weren't quite sure of what form that would take. So, but Tanesha, I'm with you in a slightly different sense. There are not a lot of, there are more women business owners. There are thankfully more Black women business owners out there today, but I still think it's incumbent on us to play the part so that there are role models for people, because I don't know what kind of stewards you had when you were growing up. I had a really wonderful family, mom. I've got 2 sisters. I've got really amazing friends. Those were the inspirational, components firing me on. And I want to make sure we can do that for the next generation, men and women, little boys and girls. So.
Tiffany? You don't want to follow?
All right. Okay, fine. I'm always intimidated following Jen in anything. And then Tanesha, after that,
Bullshit.
I will tell, so a little bit of like, I have always, yes, to answer the question, in terms of having that passion internally, absolutely. But I had some early on career failures that really dashed my confidence. And I got to a point where I really didn't believe in the power of my own voice and didn't feel confident speaking up. And owning Ignite has been almost like a healing experience for me and has made me feel extremely comfortable acting boldly and sharing my passions. And being, one of the things that we talk about amongst our instructor team all the time is being unapologetically yourself. Because that's the best that you can be. Like, there's only one you. So just be you, do you. And that's been a really cool part of this journey for me.
Okay, so we're going to have some rapid fire questions. And this is not a rapid fire question. This is a question that I wanted to ask y'all, but there's definitely not enough time. But I think it could be really eye-opening for people who are listening. So if y'all want to reach out to these women about this question, I'm just going to leave it open to you. But one thing that I do think is amazing, especially about Tiffany and Jen, not leaving you out, Tanesha, is, people often say that Birmingham is very difficult to break into if you're not from here. And so y'all have done like just an amazing job of like, you have not lived here very long and just done an amazing job about spreading your brand awareness, like building relationships within the city, within the communities. And so I want people to look at what y'all have done, and that is not a truth. Like, it is not true. You work hard and, make the connections, like Tanesha, all the small business stuff, even though she is from here. Like, so anybody who's watching who needed to hear that, I just wanted to put that out there, and we're not going to talk about how they did it. You'll just have to ask them. But here are some rapid fire questions, and I'm actually going to write down your answers, and I am going to include it. Actually, I won't. Kelsey, who's awesome, will include it in the follow-up email because it's business and helpful. Okay, so we're going to start every time with Jen, Tiffany, and Tanesha so that I don't mess up on my typing. But tell me, what is your favorite business podcast or podcast that like influences the way you operate in your industry? And then what's your favorite guilty pleasure podcast?
I've tied for two on the business side. One is
Okay.
How I Built This. Kind of typical. I'm sure a lot of people listen to it. But I also think to complement that, I listen to Oprah's Soul Conversations.
Oh.
Because you need the data and you need the gut. She's just, I don't know, I just feel very inspired, and I also feel very clear-headed after I listen. Whether or not they're with entrepreneurs, just conversations.
Yeah.
Guilty pleasure podcast. God, this is so nerdy, you guys. I'm listening to the original Sherlock Holmes on Audible right now. It's really quite lovely. But I would say I'm more of a book listener, and so if you're looking for a juicy read, either read The Guest List. I just listened to it. It's great. British and Irish accents really make it very theatrical. There's some other ones too, but I'd leave it with that.
Okay. All right, Tiffany.
My favorite business podcast is How I Built This. And Jen, I didn't hear what you said.
Oh, Oprah Soul Conversations. Oprah?
Can you type it? I'm sorry. This is terrible. My audio is just a mess. Yeah, How I Built This was just like so inspiring for me early on, and now it continues to be. The Sadie Lincoln one, she owns Bar 3, was really good. And oh yes, I mean anything with Oprah, Mama O. And then the Bonobos one is so good. The pants designer. He is so vulnerable and just so honest. It's a really, really inspiring one. Jen, I am with you in terms of audiobooks over podcasts typically. Right now, what am I listening to? I typically I go to either Oprah's book club or Reese's book club. And that's kind of where I start for fiction.
Okay.
But my list is long right now on Audible.
I love it. All right, Tanesha, what about you? Oh, I got you.
So I'm going to have to piggyback off of Tiffany. I love How I Built This. And I actually, on Audible, I'm listening to Scaling Up. This is my second go round, the Rockefeller Habits. And other than that, guilty pleasures is probably sneaking like a glass of wine in a cup and watching whatever my kids have to watch. So I don't get to do any of that unless I'm doing a business class, or that's about it for me. So I don't get to watch much television at all. Or
Gotcha.
I don't get to, like, when we're listening to stuff in the car, it's whatever they want to listen to.
That's right. Yep. Okay, so biggest book that you've read that has made the biggest impact on the way you run your business, Jen?
The Lean Startup.
Okay.
That's a good one.
Okay, Tiffany?
Like a Virgin by Richard Branson.
Oh, haven't read that one. Okay, Tanesha?
I'm gonna have to say Scaling Up Again. I think it's a really good one.
Okay, last question. Besides your CRM or your like actual, if you have like a member client platform, what, or like Stripe or whatever, what is the top 3 or top 2 technology tools that help you run your business smoothly? Jen?
Yes, top 3. One, I am a Square user, so I have been very, very reliant on Square and all apps that plug into Square, for better or for worse. I run everything through that for efficiency. Number 2, my accounting software, Xero with an X.
Love it.
Highly reliant on it. And number 3, Canva, because I'm highly unartistic and it helps me to run social media, which I, by the way, hate. So I'm sorry. I probably
You do
shouldn't.
so good.
I think that social media, if I were not a business owner, I would delete all of my apps completely. I would remove them from my life. It's been
Me too.
very, very helpful for our business. I'm not going to lie. It's supported organic growth.
Mhm.
But to your earliest point, Kim, I have a really hard time with what Instagram has evolved to. And I hope that we can continue to be raw, real, authentic voices on the platform, because we have to be on there for business. But I use Canva to make things beautiful. Those are my favorites.
All right. Tiffany.
I am going to just copy 2 of Jen's, because Xero and Canva are amazing. And then I am also so old school, and I love a Google Doc. Like Google Office, just share everything, compile information, track some changes among your teammates. It's my favorite.
All right, Tanesha.
So for us, I would say QuickBooks. We use Slack to internally communicate amongst our team versus a litany of emails. We're working on Asana, but just still haven't quite nailed it yet. But I think if we can figure it out, it would be good. So just if anybody wants to, that's a good platform for people to try to look into.
Yep. Okay, well, ladies, it is too short. Like, I still have so many great questions to ask y'all, but we have to stop. Thank y'all so much for joining us today. This was just good for my soul, and I know everybody who's listening was really, it was good for them too. So thank y'all so much.
Thank you.
And yeah, so several people have said thank you. It was so great. Thank you for your honesty, your vulnerability. So this was just a great Friday morning. Thank y'all so much. And
Hey, Kim,
you can do it. Go Birmingham.
For everyone else, but if there are questions, I would say the biggest thing that I have pulled from Birmingham is that people have helped me. I just generally believe in paying it forward. The 3 of you have helped me so much, and I consider you friends. If there are questions that we can be helpful on, I will just offer our contact info, because it's just important for us.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll have that on the email, so we'll be able to get it to people. So thank y'all so much. This was so great. All right.
Loved it.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.